to talk about manifesting and creating the life that you desire. So thanks for joining me, Tanya.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to be here today.
I know, I'm so excited too. I just think that this is a great time for this topic. I think it's needed right now. People are so focused on just what they don't have. And actually, I know you've had a lot of success lately manifesting. I've had tremendous success.
Absolutely. It's been really exciting. And I think, when you focus your energy, because we're all based off of energy, vibration, and frequency. And when we are focusing our energy on abundance versus lack, which can be difficult. And I know you and I have talked about that, the empath concept and picking up on others' energies.
Yep.
Many of your listeners may be empaths and they may be picking up on others' energies, which pulls them into that fear and that state of lack. And it's important to pull yourself out of that and align with that inner love, inner peace, inner abundance, those higher vibrational energies.
Yeah, because that's where all of the magic happens, when you're in those higher states, and also just staying in the present moment. Not giving into the fear of what's going to happen, not worrying, not getting that anxiety going, as long as you're staying in the moment and maintaining your vibe, your own high vibe. Work on your vibe. I think that's the sweet spot. Then you start seeing magic. It feels like magic.
Absolutely. And tuning into those synchronicities, whatever those synchronicities look like for you, whether it's number sequences or butterflies or feathers or people coming into your life or animals or whatever it may be that the universe is presenting to you, and consciously recognizing that when you are receiving those synchronicities regularly, understanding that you are in that alignment.
Yeah, because that's the reminder from your higher self and from source and the universe that yes, we see you, you see us, you see what's happening. So keep going. It's a constant validation.
Absolutely. And we know that our emotions are energy in motion, right? So our emotions play a huge role in manifesting. We have to feel in order to receive, in order to manifest that into our life. So it's so important for us to tune in to that heart space and feel where we are at. If we're feeling sadness or those lower vibrational emotions, it makes it really difficult for us to manifest the higher vibrational ideas or things, that we want into our life. A really quick example of this is I started a manifestation group, and there was a gentleman there, and I asked him, if you had $10 million, what would you want to manifest? And he said, I would love to manifest a sanctuary for senior animals. And I said, well, how does that make you feel? And he said, actually, it makes me feel sad. And I said, sad? You can't manifest that if you feel sad. So you have to clear that emotion through different techniques like beyond quantum, healing, EFT tapping, emotion code, so you can become more in alignment and in resonance of whatever it is that you're trying to manifest. So that's just an example. Is if you're trying to manifest something, take a step back and ask yourself, how does this really, truly make me feel in my heart?
Yes. If you're trying to get, and that is I think that is probably one of the core, I think that's one of the core processes.
Challenges.
Yeah. Challenge that people have is that so people want love, everybody wants love. But when you think about, attracting a lover or the unconditional love that you want, a lot of times it makes people focus on the loneliness that they're feeling now or the lack of it. And you cannot get there from there. That's what Abraham Hicks says. You cannot get there from there, because when you're feeling that emotion of lack and loneliness and longing, you're not in the right vibrational space. You have to if you're thinking about manifesting something and it does not feel good to think about, if it makes you feel sad or any other way, then excited. You have to feel excited and passionate and just
anticipate, and the anticipation of it coming.
Yes, you have to feel that. If you feel anything other than that, then either get off the subject and quit thinking about it. find a way to clear that energy, like you're saying, through different techniques. I also use journaling to try to soothe myself back into the desire, to feeling what it would feel like to have it and not focus on the lack of it. So that's so important.
Absolutely. And another example that I had recently with someone is they wanted to win the lottery. So we started doing some scratch offs. And one thing I recognized is they would buy the scratch off and go straight to the barcode and then scan the barcode, and they weren't winning. And I said, how do you feel when you do that? You're just trying to get to the end result, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did is I bought a few scratch offs and I went through the process. I was scraping it off, and I would see, I think one of them I played had little gophers on it or whatever. And I'm like, ooh, I got a gopher. And then this one, I got really excited during my scratch off like a child. I was feeling the bliss and the joy and the excitement of the anticipation and the feeling of winning. And every single time I won something, maybe $4 here, $8 here, even one was $12. But I was practicing anticipation, practicing the feeling of joy and excitement of scratching off those tickets to see what was underneath it.
Yeah.
And when he saw me doing that, he did it, and then he won $2. So I feel like that's part of it. It's not the end result, it's the journey getting to that process.
And a lot of times when you finally get what it is that you've been working to manifest, it's kind of like of course that happened. And it's not like such a leap into your life. It's not such like I finally did it, because you've been practicing that vibration all along. So it's just like, of course it showed up.
You're 100% true. And when I do it, it's like, I am so grateful for this. I deserve this. This is my divine right to receive this abundance on the reg. I mean, this is something that it's always in our vortex. We just have to align with it through our feeling.
And you absolutely do. Feel appreciative of it. Acknowledge that it happened because you did create it.
Absolutely.
And when you do acknowledge that you created it, it gives yourself that worthiness. You start seeing how the universe is playing for you and not against you. And it just opens you up even more to accept more of what you've already put into your vortex.
It is. And what types of techniques do you use, Steph? Because I know I have several that I use to manifest.
I do a lot of, obviously meditation. I meditate every day. I use that to put me into kind of, I call it opening the channel to my higher self. Whether I feel like something happened in meditation or not, it doesn't matter to me. It just is for me to open the channel. Okay, I'm connected. I plugged myself in. And then I journal. I journal a lot. I journal, and I don't journal like, oh, I hate my life. Like, that's not what I'm doing. I'm journaling my perfect life. I'm journaling whatever it is that I want to tweak in my life. And I write it as it's already done. And I get on like a rampage of writing where I'm like, I love the feeling of this. I love, whatever it is that I'm working on trying to bring into my life. Right now, actually, I'm trying to work on weight loss because I think a lot of people can relate in this lockdown. I'm eating a lot.
Well, and those emotions are coming up, and I tell you what, people want a snack. People want a snack. They don't want to process those emotions.
No, and you're bored.
And you're bored. So on the Abraham Hicks scale of emotions, you've got your spiral on the top, which is bliss, joy, enlightenment, peace. And then you've got the middle line, which is boredom. And then you've got the lower vibrational emotions underneath it, the fear, so it's like when you're in that boredom stage, you're in a place where you're not high vibe and you're not low vibe. You're kind of
and it could go either way. It could go either way. So right now I've been journaling on my perfect body and how much I love my perfect body and how much I love the way my clothes fit. I love the way, I can move and with freedom and without exhaustion. And I love, I just love the feeling of fit, tone, body, and I get on a rampage and I use lots of different colorful language and I feel it while I'm doing it. And at the end of it, I say things like, and I'm excited to see the progress that I've made in my journey towards my ideal weight, just even doing this exercise. So that's what I do is I journal. And I'll have to tell you, I started doing that. I did Weight Watchers 2 months ago because I was like, this is getting out of control. That had not been showing results like it had in the past. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to come at this energetically and I'm going to manifest it. So I started journaling about a week ago. I've lost 6 pounds so far.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And another really good technique to do, which this can be intense if you've never done it before, is called Ho'oponopono. It's a Hawaiian technique for self-love and self-care. And what I suggest is doing it in front of the mirror where you can look yourself in the eye. And some of you may be very, very startled that you can't even look yourself in the eye. And it's so hard. So the Ho'oponopono is saying, you start off with saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And you just say that over and over and over. And what your intention is to start creating self-love within yourself. And you will begin to notice, when I first did this, first of all, I couldn't even look myself in the eye. I tried it the next day. I started sobbing my eyes out. Then I started to feel this sense of, okay, I'm okay now. And then I got really excited, like, I love you, girl. Like, so it was like, you notice this shift, and what that's doing is it's raising your vibration. It's pulling you out of that subconscious space of that negative self-talk. And so that's a really good technique to do when you're trying to get yourself out of that lower vibrational state.
Yeah. And that also, that's the key. I think that's really the key to everything that you want to manifest, is whether or not you feel worthy to get it.
Absolutely.
And if you're having a hard time looking at yourself in the mirror, then you do not feel worthy.
No. And you're not going to attract it because you are in a place of lack. You're in a place of self-doubt, and you're not creating self-love, because it really boils down to self-love. The way that we love ourselves is that vibration that we're sending out there. And like you and I have talked, the highest is that sense of unconditional love. And when we're in that place of unconditional love, all that infinite abundance is just flowing to us with ease.
Absolutely. It is. What are some tips that you're using to manifest?
So one tip that I do, I like meditation, but for some reason I have a difficult time visualizing. And being an empath, I have that clairsentience. So I feel things really strongly. So I also use the meditation technique, but I take it into the chakras. So what I'll do is visualize whatever it is that I want first coming into my root chakra, visualizing the red and, clearing it out, working my way up to the sacral, that creative space, and then up into the solar plexus, that confidence of receiving it, working it into the heart, feeling it, up to the throat chakra, speaking it into existence. And then getting into the third eye of understanding that everything is in our vortex. We just have to align with it. And then moving it into that crown chakra and sending it out like an antenna, sending that out. So I do the meditation, but I have a hard time visualizing it. But like I said, if you're a good visualizer, then visualize whatever it is that you're trying to bring into, that you are bringing into your reality. I don't want to say trying, because that's a resistant statement. But bringing it in and feeling it, and then releasing it, let it, and just knowing it's on its way.
Isn't that funny? And when things are about to come to me, I do feel that expectant knowing. I try to get there. I try to make myself get there on my own in the past. And I have a hard time. So I think that for me, my experience has been, as soon as I start feeling and knowing, I told you in the beginning of this quarantine that I'm going to thrive financially. I'm not going to hurt. I'm going to thrive financially. And I knew it. I just knew it. It was that expecting feeling. I wasn't trying to work myself into that expectant place. I just knew, and it's happening. And that seems to be the predecessor to everything that I have intentionally manifested into. I guess we're always intentionally manifesting, but whether you want it or not.
Absolutely. And it's all based on your vibe, like you said.
But I think that that's like a good key. If it feels really good and you just expect that it's going to happen, it will pop right into your experience.
It will. And another technique I like is called the cancel technique. And that's basically when you are working on manifesting something, you will have self-doubt. Things will come into your mind of, this isn't coming, this isn't, and you need to consciously catch yourself in those thoughts, because what that's doing is creating resistance
Right.
for you to receive it. So what I'll do is, if I catch, I'm trying to manifest some money, and then I have a negative thought, you don't deserve this, you have to work hard for money, this is something that doesn't come easily to you. Cancel. Heck no, that's not in alignment.
Right.
I absolutely deserve this money. This is my divine right.
Mm-hmm.
I am in alignment with this money.
Mm-hmm.
Changing that thought. And the more you do that, you create momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And all about manifesting is all about momentum. So the more momentum you can create, the more it's like, you're in a car and you're going one direction, and then you have the brakes, put the brakes on, and then you want to turn around the other way. You've got to slow down first,
Right.
hit the brakes, and then turn the car around. And what you need to do is turn that car around and go the other direction.
Right.
So if you've been on this momentum of negative self-talk and negative thoughts and emotions, you've got to slow it down, hit the brakes, and then turn it around, and then create momentum, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going from 0 to 60, it's like you need to get that momentum going.
Exactly. And that also reminds me of another analogy that I've heard too, is where, people too often we're focused on what's happening right now, what our reality is right now. It's very hard to look away from, the negative bank account. It's very hard to look away from, the weight that we've put on. And I mean, that's the reality, but that's what we've created up to this point. That didn't happen to us. We created it.
Yes.
And especially right now, it feels as if it's been done to us, because of all of these other circumstances. But what you want to do is look forward, where you're going, where you want to be. It's so, in the car analogy, it's like you're not looking at the gas pedal and your feet were operating the car. You're looking out the windshield at where you're going.
Absolutely. And I have a statement that all my friends joke with me. It's called "Not My Reality." So if there's something that I am not resonating with in my life, I say "not my reality," and I stop it and I shift it to the reality that I want. So
yes.
We have a choice every single moment to shift our reality. We just have to take a step back and consciously recognize what is being mirrored to us. What is it that is creating what's the internal aspect that's creating the external reality in our lives? And the moment you figure that out, whether it's a limited belief, it could be an emotion, it could be some sort of a subconscious pattern that needs to be shifted.
Absolutely.
These are things that could be a karmic, tie.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that once you figure out what it is, you can release that energetically, and it opens up a whole new space for you to move into the direction that you want to be in.
Yeah. And that just made me, realize that, also, the other what I wanted to say is I just got distracted because there's a synchronicity on my phone.
11:11.
11:11 right now. But the belief. So I've thought that too. The subconscious belief, talk pattern thing that goes on. Relationships were a big thing for me in this lifetime, and so was money. And so I sat down. I'm like, I'm not happy with the current, number in my bank account. And so I would sit down and think, okay, how did I get to this point? What has been because it's all about sloppy focus, really.
I love that, sloppy focus.
We're sloppy focusers sometimes. And we get into these patterns of focus that if we just shift those a little bit, that things change drastically. And so what I would do, I write a lot. So I would write down what my views on money were. I would just write down everything that I think about money. When I'm thinking about money, you have to work hard. It doesn't grow on trees.
It's the root of all evil.
Root of all evil. I mean, I write down all of these things, and then I try to look at them individually and say, is that true?
And it's just energy. Money is just energy.
It is just energy. Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's funny because some people have a better time manifesting money and harder time with relationships.
Yep.
Because they think one is harder than the other to get for some reason, but it's not. Everything is energy.
It is.
But I would start to look at each one of those beliefs about money or whatever, and I debunk them. I'm like, wait a minute, that's actually not true.
I love it.
When you put it down of what you actually do think, it will surprise you, and it does change things for you. Then you start thinking, you go, oh wait, that's not true. and it does just immediately dissolve.
Yeah. And I love that concept of journaling your thoughts, taking your thoughts, take a few days to just journal your thoughts and go back and look at them and say, okay, am I more on a negative thought pattern scale, or am I more on a positive thought pattern scale? And you might be really surprised that you do a lot of beating yourself up on a daily basis and you don't even realize that you're doing it.
Exactly.
So until you become consciously aware of what your subconscious is doing, then you're not going to be able to raise your vibration and shift that, because our subconscious mind is working 90 to 95% of our daily activities, our daily lives. We're on that autopilot. And with this quarantine going on, many of us are being challenged with getting off of autopilot because we have had these routines.
Right.
And now our routines are shifting and they're changing, and it's making all of these emotions bubble to the surface. Emotions of lack and fear and insecurities and all of these, guilt, shame, whatever it may be, are bubbling to the surface. And if we aren't processing them, all we're doing is locking them into our subconscious mind. And then that's what we are attracting into our lives.
Absolutely. And I think this is the perfect time to practice manifesting, because we really don't have the distraction that we had before. I know there are people that are still working from home, and there are people that are struggling with homeschooling their children. I'm one of them.
I can't relate. I don't have a child, but I have a cat, and I can say that he's a little.
Oh my God. I will never. This is going to be an interesting time, but poor kid. But I know you have a lot of challenges on your plate, and that's valid. But there are a lot of us too that we don't have a job anymore.
Yeah.
We cannot go out and have the social events that we wanted to have, that took up time before. Our kids' sports programs are all canceled. So really there is a lot more time in the day for us to just be. Mm-hmm. And we are so used to making things happen. We are an action-oriented race. The human race is very action-oriented. But this time has been so great for me because I really enjoy the being.
The human being, not the human doing.
Yeah, not the doing. I enjoy the being. And some days I feel like not getting out of bed, and that's okay. I know that's what my body needs. There are some days that I feel really inspired to do something on my house, and I'll work on that. Or I think this is a great time to practice manifesting, because really there's nothing else is taking our demand, and we have that time to work on these tips and tricks and tools to kind of hone in on what it is that you really want and see how quickly it comes into your, regardless of the circumstances. It does not matter where it comes from, how it comes to you. The universe has a million different ways that it can give you what it is that you want. So don't believe that there's anything different than that.
Yeah. And I totally, that brings up a point that we get so stuck on how we're going to manifest something, right? And I've had clients I've worked with that are so stuck on winning the lottery. And I say, listen, what if you open your thoughts, get rid of those limited beliefs that you can only win money from the lottery, and open up that energy to, maybe you have an amazing idea that wins more, that brings more abundance into your life than the lottery could ever even give you.
Right.
People get so stuck on how it's coming into their reality versus just focusing on what you're going to do with, that abundance, whatever it may be. And I have an example of one thing that when I first started working with manifesting, this is probably 4 or 5 years ago, I wanted to buy an SUV. Okay. I wanted to win an SUV. I didn't want to buy one. I wanted it to just show up into my reality. Okay. So at the time I was really centering my focus on it. I started to look at pictures of it online. I started to see myself driving in it. I went to the dealership and sat in it and smelled it and saw what it felt like. And I knew it was coming into my reality because I was getting on the interstate one day and a big semi truck drove by with like 10 of the cars on it that was the car I was manifesting, same color. And I'm that's really odd that there's, 10 cars of the same color of the one that and I knew it was coming. It was coming. The next morning I woke up and it said, you need to go to REI. Okay. So they were open. This is when I lived in Orlando. They were opening a brand new REI in Orlando. And I was like, okay, I need to go to REI. Well, that next day, something came up with work. I couldn't get to REI, you know, and I was like, oh, I missed it, you know. The next day, my friend calls me and said, I missed you at the REI opening. They gave away an SUV. And I said, well, what was it? It was a black, I think it was like a Honda CRV. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But a Toyota or something. And he told me exactly the car. And I was like, I missed it. That was my car. You know, that was in my vortex. But I knew after that experience that I created that circumstance, and I had to follow that with the action. When I got that nice little intuitive nudge, hey, you need to go to this, and I missed it, you know, I knew that I created that. I was creating momentum, and it was there. It was in my vortex.
Yeah.
So part of that manifesting is feeling it, but also taking action when necessary,
Absolutely.
you know, to go receive that abundance.
Yeah. When you get that inspiration, you act on it. And
yes,
that's so funny. Yeah. I've heard stories like that also.
And that was my beginning. And now I know when I have that little tiny nudge, that little voice, I'm like, I'm on it. I'm on it.
I'm going. Not going to miss that one again. No, absolutely. And you recently, and I think too, the more you get on a kick where you are manifesting things and you are acknowledging the synchronicities and you're in that flow of no resistance really, because everything's just falling into place for you, even more starts happening. I know you recently had a manifestation of some money.
I did. And I started this group, and last week I just said, somebody mentioned, it'd be nice to win $10 million. And I said, geez, I'd be happy with $2,000. You know, I just made a comment. I just threw it out there being sarcastic. And then I left, you know, and I was really flying high because we had a really great meeting. And then a few days ago, I get a call from my grandmother saying, hey, I just felt the need to send you some money. I sent you a check for $2,000 in the mail. And I was like, what? You know, so, and it's so funny when it smacks you in the face. You're just like, I created that. I spoke that into existence. And a lot of that is speaking it. And I notice this with clients when they'll call me or we work together, they'll say, I want this, or I need this, and I say, hey, listen, let's reframe our phrase and let's speak it into existence together. And I'm telling you what, when that happens, when you've got two people focused on a certain intention, it's amazing. A day or a week, they'll call me and say, you're never going to believe this. And I say, actually, I do believe it. I totally believe it. We set the intention, we were in alignment, and we spoke that into existence together. So it's so important, the words that we use and the tone that we use, because that all puts us in vibrational alignment as well. So if you're saying, I never win the lottery, I never win the raffle, I never, win this, what you're doing is you're putting that intention out into the universe. Whether you've never won it or not, start saying, I always win the lottery. I always win the raffle.
Exactly.
And the moment you start shifting that, even if you don't believe it, you're going to start believing it the more you start saying it.
Yeah, absolutely. They're like affirmations. Absolutely. No, I've had the same experience where in the beginning of all of this, when things were uncertain there for a second and I didn't know how it was going to work out, but I just knew it was going to work out. I knew things were going to be okay. And I had problems with my tires for the longest time. I needed tires. They were wobbly on the car. I knew it was not safe to be driving anymore. And so I had a little bit of money and I thought, okay, I got to get tires for my car. And I went down and got a good deal and got them mounted. And then I had my dad came to pick me up to take me to go pick up my car. And he said, I just want to give you this money. And I said, what? And he goes, yeah, I just want to take care of this for you. Don't try to give it back to me. Here you go. He gave me $500 cash.
I love that.
But I didn't. And I was like, but I don't need it because I got the money. And he was like, it doesn't matter. Here you go.
And part of that is learning to receive. And especially for those of you who are empaths, we get so stuck in the giving, right? So we have to take a step back and learn to receive and be grateful that
and feel worthy
receiving that and that we are worthy of that. Because when we say, I don't need it, the universe is saying, well, fine, then I'm not going to give it to you anymore, right? So when people give it to us, it's bringing them joy to give to us, and it's joyful for us to receive it. And I'm the same way. It was always really hard. I was a very independent, I can do this on my own. And when people would give me things, I would get really uncomfortable. I was like, ooh, I don't know if I can, what do I owe you? You know, it was always, what do I owe you, right? So now, understanding that manifesting in abundance comes with that cycle of giving and receiving, it makes it so much easier to know, I don't have to give you something, but if I do down the road, I would love to do that. And I'm so grateful that you're giving me this for, you know, whatever reason.
Yeah. Well, I think those are all great tips. We've got about 5 minutes left on our call here.
Okay.
So I think let me go ahead and have you talk a little bit about what you're doing, where you're going, where you're headed, where we're going to find you next. What's going on with you, Tanya?
Absolutely. So very quickly, my story started with, I worked in healthcare for nearly 20 years around grieving families. And I learned the concept of what an empath was about 10 years ago, and the importance of clearing my energy and understanding that I was picking up the emotions of others. And then that started me on my journey of energy medicine. And I, first went down the path of Reiki and getting, going through the level 3 of that. And a lot of that was just to get attuned into the energy, raising my vibration. And then I moved down the emotion code path and decided that that was a really important way to learn muscle testing or applied kinesiology, which for those of you who are familiar with that or not familiar with that, I would definitely research it. It's a wonderful tool to have in your toolbox. And then that led me to the EFT tapping, the emotional freedom technique. And a lot of these tools that I've learned over the years, now I'm sharing with others. And recently I had several clients bring up out of the blue, are you familiar with Beyond Quantum Healing or Quantum Healing Hypnosis Therapy? And I said, actually, I interviewed Allison Coe about a year ago, on my YouTube channel, and I've always been intrigued by it. So now I am moving down the path, and Steph has helped me, move down the path of becoming certified in that as well. So you can find out more about me on my webpage at www.thesoulcafe.org. I do have a Facebook and Instagram and a YouTube that you can find through that webpage. And I do personal sessions with people. One-on-one, we can do it through Zoom, through Skype, through Facebook Messenger, or over the phone, whatever is easier for you. I work with people all over the world.
That's awesome.
Russia, Germany. I mean, as long as you can speak English,
that's awesome.
I'll work with you. So yeah, it's been a really exciting journey, and a lot of it just started with my own healing. Yeah. And part of that is, we learn to heal ourselves, and then we teach others how to.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. It's so funny because I think the very first time I contacted you was through Instagram. I was so excited to find somebody that had interviewed Allison Coe because I had just become, certified in BQH. And I emailed you and you said, that's so funny. I've been thinking about doing BQH, becoming certified. And I said, well, here's your sign.
And I'm getting buzzing. That's another sign. It's always a remembrance of, hey, this is part of your path. When
people come to you. Yeah, people will show you. Well, thank you so much, Tanya, for doing this. I really appreciate it, for taking the time. I think we gave everybody a lot of great information. I hope that they will put these tools to work because it is so much fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really enjoyed this. And I'm going to put that intention out there that for all of you listeners, you are receiving abundance.
Absolutely.
Abundance.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Tanya.